Hello again. Thank you for joining me on another video. So today I was going to talk about spiritual awakening and romance. So, boy, have you ever heard of the twin flame phenomenon? Spiritual awakening can open up you to levels of love and understanding and compassion that are so beautiful. You can't help but want to share them with somebody else. And if you don't have a partner who's really aware or on that level, it can be quite challenging to find someone willing. So if you're already in a relationship and you have been for a while before the spiritual awakening process happens, you might have a set of patterns and expectations in each other that are really based in everyday life kind of stuff. Taking care of family, taking care of your finances, taking care of kind of the more mundane parts of having a body and doing human stuff. And that might include a whole bunch of distractions like, watching shows and watching movies and maybe going out to the bar or, fast food or whatever the case may be. And after you have a spiritual awakening, some of those things you're just not going to be interested in anymore, or you're not going to be able to tolerate anymore. I know that when I went through after a Kundalini awakening and my physiology was changing, and I had tons and tons of karma because I had tons and tons of trauma from early childhood and my younger years. And so what happens in a Kundalini awakening is that your whole nervous system gets an upgrade. And the energy going through your system will enliven again dormant cells that hold those memories. So for me, it was an inexplicably difficult, not inexplicably, it's explicable. It sucked really bad. It was an enormous change. I shifted enormously, and it took several years. And during that time, everything that I had been interested in prior, I was no longer interested in at all. I couldn't stand the smell of alcohol. I didn't want to be anywhere near it. I thought it was absolutely insane that humans drank it at all. It's literally poison. How could we do that? It became something that I literally couldn't comprehend anymore than why it was a thing. And my partner still wanted to drink, so that became a huge problem. I couldn't tolerate shows that I used to like. If there was any mention of someone getting hurt, let alone actual physical violence on the screen, I couldn't tolerate it. I had to turn away. I actually couldn't even read books for a little while because if I came across a passage where it was describing someone getting hurt, I couldn't tolerate it. And I would end up getting these images of horrible and painful things going through my mind. And it took me quite a while to learn how to silence my mind and dissolve images when they come into it. But until I learned that skill, I had to just avoid it all. So there was about 2 years where I couldn't watch any media almost at all of any kind or read it. So it was a lot of quiet meditation and time in nature. And so my partner and I grew apart because that is not where he was at all. And it's hard to maintain a relationship once you start growing apart on those levels. I think even if a spiritual awakening wasn't happening, that much of a different change in a person is going to cause some issues. But on top of that, I was also now incredibly interested in the nature of reality. I was questioning every single thing that was in front of me. And this would include things that he was interested in, and so I would get a little combative at times with, why are you listening to that music? It's bad for you. Can't you hear the message in it? And a little bit more rigid and black and white because I really wanted to feel what good felt like. I knew that it was possible and I was on the path to it, and I just had to keep on turning. So I was very sensitive to anything that seemed too dark, negative, or intrusive to the peace that I was attempting to cultivate and the clarity in my mind that I wanted to finally be freed. So some of that became impossible to really resolve. Eventually, we parted ways as friends, because the fact of the matter was he wasn't ready. He wasn't there. And that wasn't where he wanted to go just yet. And I couldn't stop. I wanted to go all the way through the process and come out the other side and see what I could make of my life with the newfound freedom that a full spiritual awakening can give you. And so it's been a few years, and my son said to me the other day, you know, Mom, I'm going to be leaving in a few years, and you're going to need to find someone. And it did kind of hit me, you know, as we age, the idea of aging alone is different. Not something I had thought about when I was younger, certainly. But spiritual awakening changes the context with which I would ever engage in that again. When I was younger, it wasn't a big deal to go on dates. It wasn't a big deal to kind of try things out a little bit more readily than I am willing to now. Now I guard my peace and my sanity and my devotion with all of my energy. And so someone who comes into my space needs to be as protective of my spiritual devotion as I am. And that might be a lot to ask of someone. So while my son had a very, beautiful, heartfelt thought for me, it's something that I don't know if I can imagine doing, as much as it would be great to have that ability to share some of those deeper insights with another person. Sometimes I think the loneliness feels more like that fear of mortality, of not wanting to die alone and wanting to go through the last stages of life with someone by your side helping you through them. And I think that the universe can provide that in many different ways. And especially after a spiritual awakening, we can look at companionship differently than we did beforehand. It seems like when you're in a more conditioned response and really more physically based, kind of like 3D stuff, as they say, you need to have a partner on that level that's interacting with you in the world on those levels. And all your hormones are what's running the show, right? So, and not just hormones for reproduction, but hormones for motivation, for goal setting, for getting needs met in that way. Those are also controlled by hormones, and those change after spiritual awakening. They don't have it. It's not as loud as it is when you're in a more physically based perspective. And so you can have companionships that do ease some of that loneliness and fear that comes. We're so ingrained when we're younger that we must have a mate, and it must be for life, and it must be the most truest love ever. And sometimes just companionship actually fits the bill. We have to think a little bit outside of the box after spiritual awakening, because our needs and our sensitivities might be so much greater that you don't want to risk putting yourself in harm's way, especially after crawling out of a dark night of the soul, to go back into something that could hurt you again. It takes a lot of work to clear the karmas of and traumas of your younger days, and the peace and joy that you feel when you're silently sitting with yourself and the divine in your state of awareness. If you can have someone join you there, great and beautiful. But I don't think it's worth giving up just to have the comfort of another body. I think the universe will make sure that there's somebody there for you, and that's just a little bit of trust that you have to have in the whole process. So I hope you found some of this helpful. I know it's hard to be alone, and we're very much trained from the time we're young that is part of the life's journey, is to have a mate. And if you get to have a soulmate, that's beautiful and that's great. But don't worry too much if you have some time that you spend alone, because those times spent alone cultivate an inner peace and a joy that will make any potential future mate even that much better. So, okay, take care. Till next time.